Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, June 9th. Can you believe it's June already? And you tuned in to Nez Says, a place where musicians can get together and inspire each other to play more guitar. We've got an amazing show. Amazing show tonight.
Line one.
Remembering Edward Van Halen. Hey, Ty, how are you?
Hey, Dave. Good to be with you. Ben, good to see you. How are you?
Dude, sun's shining, birds are chirping. It's mid to high 80s, high humidity. I feel like I'm in your neck of the woods. I'm loving it. And, I'm already seeing in the chat, it's like your favorite leg of the Van Halen tour. That's right. I said it. We got the people hanging out in the parking lot beforehand. They're pre-came it. They got their cold snacks handy. I can't wait to get started. I want to welcome Anthony, welcome Mike, two super cool cats. Like all of us, the world changed last year. And unlike myself, they actually got off their butts and did something about it. And I'm super excited to talk about it. Welcome, Anthony and Mike.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
We're so happy that you're here. Any opportunity that the three of us have with our distinguished guest in the chat to talk about Van Halen is always a good time, right? And you guys are embarking on an exciting new project that we can't wait to hear more about. But before we jump into that, Ben, why don't we say hello to everybody that has shown up so far?
Well, they opened the doors, general admission. They all came rushing right down front to the stage because we've got Kid Shred himself, Joe Hervey 84. We got the Hitman Dwight Bailey, Thomas Santiago, Charles 75N, the one, the only, the Chad, Dan of New Jersey, Papa Blue, Tinkerbell. Let's see, James Gum is here. Awesome. Kurt 5150. He knows a thing or two about Van Halen. Tim Thomas is here. Welcome, Tim. Awesome. Let's see. Scrolling back into those. Some guy named Ben Coombs. Likely a troll. Who knows? And StreamYard's here. Perfect. That's good. That's handy. And those that are lurking while working, maybe they're just not at their keyboards at the moment. They're running back from the fridge right now. They got the cold snack. I said that. That was a mistake. I'm sorry. But hey, there's ooh, that's a good one. CNTMP. So something later.
Contemplator.
Thank you. That's a good one. Dave wins $200 on Bumper Stumper.
Yay!
And everyone's going, what's Bumper Stumper? Canadian game show in the 80s.
I started to say it's got to be a Canadian game show.
Play.
Yeah.
Available on the Game Show Network on reruns in the U.S., I believe.
Well, good. Hey, guys in the chat, we're so glad that you tuned in to us tonight. Thank you for being here. Anthony, Mike, Dave gave me a phone call. God, it's been a few weeks now, and he had this exciting news. He said, let me tell you about this really cool project that my friend Anthony is involved in. So, Dave, why don't you tell us about this great this new project?
Sure. Well, Anthony texted me and says, "Well, we're going to do this playlist, and pick your 5 favorite Van Halen songs, and just say a blurb. Record a little blurb about one of them, something that reminds you of the song, something that reminds you of Eddie Van Halen, something to remember him by, like a little station identification for the songs." And I said, "Oh, sure, yeah, I'll do whatever you want." And then he says, "Do you think it's a good idea? I think we're gonna do this. Me and a friend of mine named Mike, and it's going to hopefully be very big for Pandora." And I said, "Well, fantastic." And I told you, and I told several other friends about it, and everyone seemed to want to do it. And we'll take it from there. Actually, Anthony, you could take it right from there.
Sure. So Mike and I work for Siriusxm, Pandora. And Mike came to me with this idea because we had previously become friendly just walking the halls. and talking about music. So once we figured out we were both massive Van Halen fans, and of course, after the death of Eddie, what else was there to talk about? At least for us passionate fans, right? So I have this idea. We have these publishing tools. We can create these playlists and kind of invite people to pick a song and do an intro and talk about Eddie, and we'll dedicate it to his memory, and we'll call it Remembering Eddie Van Halen. And so what we did was set this up and decide to basically, really, we were looking for passionate fans like us, super fans. And Dave, you and I have known each other over 20 years, and not only are you a fan, but you're well known as an expert on Eddie and guitars in general and all that. So between you and all the other friends that we kind of had combined, those are the people we approached first. But then the list kind of grew. And you mentioned Van Halen, and people come out of the woodwork wanting to participate, and it was a wonderful thing because we wanted to put together this playlist to just kind of like an outpouring of love and memories, and to kind of give back a little bit and sort of have maybe kind of sort of a cathartic kind of healing type thing by remembering Eddie. So we all picked songs, and I picked some really, really personal ones. I don't think I've ever gotten that personal in public before. If you listen to the intros, you'll know why. And I can't thank Mike enough for coming up with this idea and being able to put it together. It's been a labor of love. It's been a lot of work, but the best part is it's been really, really well received, and we're still accepting submissions because we have plans to kind of move this thing forward and kind of reinvent it as time goes on. Mike,
that's really cool, Mike. How did the idea originate? I mean, where did the vision for the idea come from?
So a little bit of background here on the technical side of things, right? So I am also kind of an independent curator for Pandora. Even though I'm on the engineering side, developing things for the streaming app, they also gave me access to create my own playlist. So previously I had an alternative rock one called Edge, and then I created another one called Top Water Country. And then I was asked to be part of a company playlist that was a monthly thing where they asked each of us select employees to choose 2 songs that kind of represented how we felt about the pandemic before and after. And then we did the same thing. We did a voice intro into the song. So it was just all of us employees. And I was thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't we open this up to the public, right? I think it'd be really cool to let the listeners curate the playlist. Not only that, let them play DJ and maybe do a little voice intro to the song, but make it kind of special. And in this case, being on Tony Gallipo's Eddie Van Halen Facebook fan page, I was like, man, everybody's still on such mourning, and there was never a service for Eddie. And everybody's like almost on a daily basis giving their own personal eulogies. So yes. Why don't I start a memorial playlist and let it be curated by the fans and let them give their own little eulogy into their favorite song? And then I said, well, I don't think this is something I can handle on my own technically, without a doubt. But from a PR standpoint and just moral support, I was like, there can't be anybody else involved in this than Anthony. It's got to be him. So I set a Zoom meeting up with him one day, and I showed him the artwork that I designed for it, and he saw it. He goes, oh, what do I need to do? Just tell me what to do. I'll do it. Like that. And then we just started like nuts reaching out to everyone. And, as far as some of the bigger names on there, I know there, people might feel a little bit like, was that really a fan? Well, like Anthony says, anybody could be a fan, right?
Right.
But also I just figured, well, it makes it that much more special if you have someone like an Eddie Trunk on there, or Phil X, or Pete Thorne, because then, the regular fans can feel a little bit, privileged and honored that they're sharing their sentiments with them on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. You put them on the same stage, on the same playing field as a celebrity, of course. And that's cool.
It's a beautiful idea, and it really is a beautiful sentiment as well. Mike, how did you discover Van Halen? I mean, how did you first come in tune with the band?
Pretty interesting story. So when I was 8 years old, 1978, we moved from kind of a urban area of the outskirts of central New Jersey, or Trenton, New Jersey, and out to a town called Hamilton Square. And I was the new kid in the neighborhood. And, thankfully there was tons of kids, the generation, whatever letter I am, I forget. But a couple of them really like kind of took me in, and the one kid would invite me over his house, and then like me, him, and the other guy would hang out and we'd play with like, Matchbox cars and things like that. Well, he had older sisters, and he would like, dip into their record collection. So he says, listen to this one. And he put it on, and they both grabbed tennis rackets to simulate having a guitar, and I had nothing. And so we're going through Run with the Devil, and I'm just looking around like, what do I do? So the one kid whose house it was went downstairs and got me a yardstick. So there I am now. I have my make-believe guitar with a yardstick, and then Eruption comes on. And I was like, it was almost like scary. It felt like aliens were coming at you or something through the speakers. I was like, now I'm not even sure I'm having fun. This is like, I don't even know what this is. But the edginess of it pulled me in, right? It was a little bit of danger, and that's kind of that. I have that side to my personality as it is. So it was just, intoxicating. And I was like, what the hell? And so from then on in, it was just every album after that, and then it became like a way of life. As Sebastian Bach once said, it was almost like Van Halen was an adjective, right? It wasn't even just a name of a band or somebody's last name. It was like everything you did. I remember walking around the halls with Ferrari sunglasses on in 7th or 8th grade with the sham shirts that were like, the striped shirts with like a bandana around your neck. So basically looking like Eddie and Alex.
Absolutely.
And then,
further, I wore the parachute pants back then.
Oh yeah. And then we have the infamous Seaside Heights boardwalk here that, the TV show Jersey Shore was filmed at. And also Six Flags Great Adventure, as I was mentioning to you guys earlier. And just, I remember in 1984 walking around, just hearing Jump and Panama blasting everywhere. And it just became a part of me. And whenever I try and think of the best times of my life, it's around that time, 8th grade, 83, 84, and Van Halen.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it was such a great time for not only youthfulness and not only music and MTV, but for the band itself, right? I mean, that band was just an unstoppable force of energy and creativity. I mean, the anticipation for 1984 to be on the end cap of that record store and walking in through the record store and picking up that album physically back when we held physical products. It was just, I mean, one of the most exciting periods of my life for sure.
Sure.
So Anthony, you talked about 5 songs, encouraging people to pick 5 songs. And I love what you said, where you said, I picked some songs that were very personal to me. So here, 2-part question. How do you only pick 5 songs?
Oh,
and how was that process? And then would you share your list with us?
sure. So how do you pick the songs? I had a hard time with it. In fact, if you go back to, we were talking about Eddie Trunk before, he had done his top 20 Van Halen list. I guess it was maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And I decided to do that exercise, and it was painful. It was absolutely painful. Really hard to do. And then you fast forward now to this playlist, and I was talking to Mike about it before we actually did any work. And I said, you know what? I would love to kind of pick some tracks off the beaten path if I can, and save some of the hits for it, because I know some friends are going to want somebody's going to want to do Jump, somebody's going to want to do Panama, Running with the Devil, and see, kind of reserve those and try to pick something a little different. So that's where I started. But then I realized that there were some that were just so meaningful to me. They're actually my favorite Van Halen song. Not the criteria. I chose it based on, a personal reason. So combine all this with what was going on last year, and not only lost Eddie, but I had great personal loss last year. My father passed away unexpectedly. It's just a year ago now, in June. I'm not going to bring the show down, but he bought me my first. Thank you. And not that he was a Van Halen fan, but he bought me my first Van Halen album. It was 1984. He brought it home from work on cassette, right? So I had that in mind. And that's kind of why I picked this. I picked Distance from Wolfgang at the end to close out the playlist, because I thought that kind of just wrapped everything up in a nice little bow. I chose Dreams because my wife was cool enough to allow me to have the band play it when we were introduced as husband and wife when we got married.
Well, she sounds cool.
Yeah, she's extremely cool.
She is
extremely cool.
very cool lady.
So and something really wild happens to me. I was driving in the car right after Eddie passed, and Siriusxm had launched the Van Halen tribute channel, which was fantastic and we're very well received.
Yes.
And so I was driving to pick up my daughter from her dance class, and "The Dream Is Over" came on, and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, the dream is over. That's what it means. And I was feeling all down, and I was thinking about my dad and thinking about losing Eddie and all that stuff. And then Dreams comes on right after it. So it's like 2 songs about dreams back to back. And I went like this range of emotion. And I'm like, you know what? I can't be the only one that felt that. And that's why I picked those 2 back to back in the playlist, kind of recreating that moment. So we had Distance, Dreams Over. And I did I'm the one because I had to. That song, and I've talked about this a lot online and on shows, and whatever. That's Van Halen. That's lightning in a bottle. It's everything amazing about the band. It's the most insane guitar work, not just the leads, but the rhythm playing is amazing. Michael Anthony's harmonies are incredible. The drumming is insane. David Lee Roth's is full on attitude, right? How they put that song together, I will never know. And in the middle of it, they had the nerve to do a barbershop quartet breakdown. It was just incredible. So yeah, I get fired up when I talk about that song.
Well, it's interesting because every Van Halen song has that lightning in the bottle moment. For you, it's "I'm the One." What's your lightning in a moment, Ben? I mean, what is the song for you that runs a parallel course to Anthony's "I'm the One"?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What's yours, Dave?
Think about that. Like, I'm going over my head. I'm trying to put together a top 5, right? And similar to Anthony, like, I've always been a fan of deep cuts on albums anyways. So, like, I was thinking about that. Like, I always thought, like, DOA was Van Halen's nod to punk rock. That's a punk rock song in many ways. And I just love it. It was so raw. But for me, Dirty Movies. That I go, because there's so many parts to that. Like, I think, the intro was something that was a completely different piece of music that he tacked on to do it, but I don't care because it's just an awesome piece of music that I'm glad got recorded. Which that's just Eddie noodling, and I love the fact, and like you say, that moment in time in any given song, but there's at a point in a lot of songs where Eddie just decides to noodle for a second or two. And it's at that one, you're like, he didn't do that turnaround any other time in the song, but he decided to. Because he can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's push come to shove, because to me, first of all, that guitar solo, how do you think of that guitar solo? How does anyone think of that guitar solo for that song? Second of all, it's their "I Was Made for Loving You." I mean, it's their disco song.
Right.
Van Halen plays disco, and in the middle of that is this unbelievable guitar solo that, again, has a little bit of everything that he does in it, but it's just so well thought out. I certainly don't think that it was a off-the-cuff solo, but who thinks of that stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my lightning in the bottle moment comes from that record too. And I promised the audience we didn't talk about this or plan this in advance, but my song, the way Anthony described it, would be Mean Street. I mean, everything about Van Halen for me is wrapped up in that song. The rhythm, the repetition, the energy behind that. I mean, that song, whether you're in your car, it doesn't matter where you hear that song, the volume comes up, and that is, and there's so many VH songs that do that, obviously, but for me, it would be Mean Street. And it is interesting that we all chose Fair Warning song.
In Mean Street, again, one of those songs with a piece of music to start it that's different from the rest of the song, but it's such a cool little thing that we all tried to do it. All of us been slapping our thumb off that 12th fret at some point in life, going, how does, yeah.
Our buddy Jay Hannon plays that dead on. It's amazing when you watch him.
He plays it very well. What about for you, Mike? I mean, what is your big Van Halen moment?
So
what's your big song?
For me, believe it or not, it's not going to sound like a big song, but it's Somebody Get Me a Doctor. And
man.
If you listen to that, it's like you're right there in the club with them. You can even hear Alice go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and it's just raw. See, I'm already getting goosebumps just saying that. Like, it makes you feel like, holy shit, like these guys are going to kick my freaking ass like that. And that's what it must have been like to be in a club watching them as another guitar player, even a fan saying, this is a whole other level. You know,
that was my coin toss between Somebody Get Me a Doctor and Everybody Wants Some.
Well, you know, like I've said this before, that like sonically, Van Halen 2 is my favorite record for the very reason that Mike points out, because you know my favorite Van Halen album without question is Fair Warning, but my favorite sounding Van Halen record is Van Halen 2 for the very reason that Mike mentioned. It's like Van Halen 1 for me on the next level. You know, I mean, it's
Van Halen 1 with a budget.
It's Van Halen.
What I love about that second record is they got rid of all that reverb. All that reverb.
And they used more than 4 tracks.
Man, that's it was a bit much for me. But I mean, who can argue with the tone on Van Halen 1? But Van Halen 2 was. It seemed like Eddie had more say of what his tone should be.
I want to read it. I want to read a couple of comments that are happening over here in the chat. The Chad also had a Van Halen song played at the announcement of his nuptials. When It's Love, that's pretty awesome.
Great choice.
Guitar Man 45. Did you actually see Van Halen open for Sabbath in '78? That would be pretty.
He's an incredible fan there. Wow,
that's history right there.
That's history. Christopher's moment is DOA. That's a big moment.
It's a great song.
Yeah, so
it's just like that was Van Halen doing punk to me. You know, like that was it could have been a Clash song in many ways. Which just shows the diversity, and you know, and the more I'm thinking of, because I'm like top 5, and you really want to represent, you know, how about probably I always thought like at least early Van Halen, the cleanest song you ever heard from Eddie, Secrets.
An amazing song.
Yeah, like that's AM radio chart topper type thing. You know, like you would think any other, you know, Foreigner could have had a hit with that. You know, like any of the, you know, radio rock, we'll say, you know, the more mellower. But man, that song, I was just like, you know, Eddie's playing's on point. You know, Dave's vocals. He's not being Dave. He brought it in. And it's just like, damn, it's so tasty.
Secrets was one that I was thinking of, and I was like, before I do too many songs on the playlist, I figured I'd rein it in a bit, so I did it in a simple rhyme instead, because those are 2 songs that Dave is not being, you know, Mr. I'm gonna get your girlfriend, right? And what happened was, so you talk about raising your arm hair moments. And I'm not talking about lead guitar. I'm talking about Eddie hitting those big chords in a simple rhyme. When the band kicks in, I'm just thinking about it now. I'm getting the goosebumps. And I've never seen Van Halen play that live, and I've seen them over 30 times over the years until Wolfgang brought it back into the set list in the 2015 tour. So not only are we in debt to Wolfgang for kind of re-energizing Eddie, getting the different kind of truth, the Live in Tokyo Dome, and those last 3 tours. Not only did we just get that, but we also got amazing songs in those tours we hadn't heard in a long time. So,
you know,
if he ever hears this, I just want to thank him.
He went over those and said, "Hey, you guys never did this. You're doing it." And like, all right, well, there's a reason we never did it live.
And Anthony, to that point, if you've read the new Guitar Player article with feature that they just released on Wolfgang, we owe him an awful lot going back to 2006.
I got to tell you, Ty, we recorded this and we launched the playlist Memorial Day weekend, and then those articles came out, and I'm like, yes. I felt so vindicated with what I was saying in my intros, because it was all in line. It was like Valerie was saying it, and Wolf was saying it, and he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait to get my copies of his album.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it either. I don't know what I appreciate more about Wolf is what he did to not only bring us Van Halen again, or how he did it. You know, the method in which he did it in such an unassuming, humble way. The gift that he gave the fan is amplified just in the way in which he presented it.
Yeah.
And I just like to throw it there as a human being following Wolfgang, for a few years now through social media. First of all, we always hear people that grow up in the industry, they all end up whack job. How did he turn out so freaking normal? Like the guy's got a head on. I don't want to call him a kid, but he's definitely not a kid anymore. And then, when I heard that he got brought in to open on the GNR tour, at first I was like, well, did he put in his time? I'm like, the bastard as a teenager had to play in front of Van Halen fans. Like, he was thrown to the wolves, pun not intended, from day one. Like, he didn't have a chance to play in the clubs or a high school talent show. Like, he's an all right cat, in my opinion.
Well, he may not be normal. He may be exceptional.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, how did you choose your 5 songs? You're the visionary of the idea. How long did you wrestle over your 5 tunes?
Well, actually, I only picked 2. And I did it for the reason was I didn't want to just have myself all over the playlist. I wanted to leave room for other people. But I chose Something to Get Me Doctor for the reason I said.
Yep.
And Jump. And Jump also for the reason I said about that feeling it gave me just to be alive in '84 and what it was like. And it was a culture. Like Van Halen, especially 1984, was a culture and a way of life back then. It wasn't just an album,
You're exactly right.
So that's what made me, really feel like I was connecting. And it's funny because Anthony and I, without even asking or discussing this with each other, we kind of took the approach, if you haven't listened yet, check it out. Our voice intros, we kind of took it back to that era, that time, right? We did it like the DJs would back then, the way they would introduce a song or tell a story, not just, dissecting the song, from a technical standpoint. We just gave it an intro and let it rip, So,
and let's not forget, let's market this properly, right, Mike? You have to have the Pandora app. You can search for Remembering Edward Van Halen, or is it Remembering Eddie Van Halen playlist? You would know if the search works either way. And that's how you can find it. It's free, and no cost to download. You can get it on your desktop computer if you go to Pandora.com or go to the App Store and download the Pandora app. I'll shut up.
It's not the Z part. Yeah. So, so that was the approach we took, was a little bit more the Wolfman Jack, if you will, for those of you who remember him.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
Dude.
That's really cool. Hey, Kurt 5150 shared his 5 with us. Let's read them. Number 1, 5150. Jamie's crying. The dream is over. Best of both worlds and secrets.
Nice.
Kurt,
that's a good list, Kurt.
Email us at Mike. Why don't you give out the email address? He should send his submissions in if he wants to do an intro for the refresh.
Definitely.
Are there any bad lists? Really?
No, but we were afraid that there were going to be so many duplicates, but it's amazing how much diversity there is within the Van Halen fan base about the songs people really gravitate towards. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting to see the submissions come in.
And they really went deep, like deep cuts, It's like, wow, really? And nobody was going for the obvious ones, like, ain't talking about love or anything like that. So anyway, real quick, the email is rememberingevhsubmissions@gmail.com. All right. I don't know if you want to put that in the chat, Ben.
Yes.
I will do that.
Definitely do that. That's awesome.
We want to keep this dynamic and fresh and kind of, refresh it from time to time and maybe do some sort of themed versions of it as well, and just give people a chance to share their memories and share their thoughts. Yep. I'm sorry, Mike. What were you going to say?
I don't know now. What was I going to say? Yes. Oh no, I was going to say either myself or Anthony personally read every email that comes through. Try to reply the same day. We'll let you know either, hey, we got your email and we're looking at it, or we'll reply right away with, hey, here's the song that we're able to reserve for you. And then we'll tell you next steps, which is typically really pretty easy. It's like, look, if you don't have a recording studio like some of us have, just do a simple voice memo right into your phone, send it right to the email address, and then I take care of the rest. I'll edit it down. Some of them were kind of lengthy, or there was a lot of pauses and breaks in between, so I had to chop space out of them and normalize the volume and all that kind of stuff. So it's a labor of love, but it was fun. It made it worth it after a while.
Nice.
That's cool. Bozique just sent his list in. Hey, Bozique, good to see you, man. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, Pound Cake, Finish What You Started, The Full Bug. That might be a song that would make my top 5. And DOA.
Nice.
I would say,
has anyone submitted a list of 5 like cover tunes? Like, because Van Halen, they always like to slip those cover tunes on those albums.
so there is a cover tune on. So my friend Michelle Amadale, she did Danced in the Streets, and she has a great story behind it. So you got to go listen to that.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
she talks exactly about that, about Eddie and covers.
Awesome.
It's an interesting story.
I
So,
don't
yeah.
know.
And was there another cover? I don't think there. Oh, Pretty Woman. Right.
Pretty Woman.
Right.
That was on there.
Yeah, I love going back and looking at a lot of the old Van Halen footage. You know, the listening to everything from beer drinkers and Hellraisers to all the covers that they did in fine tuning their craft. Right? I mean, all of it was Van Halen-ized very, very early, which really kind of speaks to where that songwriting evolved to, right? That there was stylistically, there was something to Ed and Al working together, at a very young age, even while they were doing covers.
They did a really good cover of Heartbreak Hotel back in '83 in South America. I think it's Sao Paulo. If you look at that, if you watch that video on YouTube, they do a really interesting cover of Heartbreak Hotel.
Wow. Let's check that out.
Yeah, Kurt, You're No Good is the best cover that they did. That's a good one for sure.
I was about to say that. Yeah, that just talk about taking a song that Ed didn't really, he wasn't crazy about doing. So, well, damn it, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be something totally my style and different. And boy, was it,
That's what I thought with Dancing in the Streets. I was like, what is this?
Right. The good time's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Dance the Night Away.
Yeah.
Just that solo. Perfect.
Yep.
Very cool
Yeah,
stuff.
unbelievable.
It's like we could go on, but that's what we're here for.
That's right.
You know what though? It's hard. It's hard to talk about that music and not smile. It's hard to talk about that music and not think about the summer or a great concert or good times with friends. That's the soundtrack of our lives.
Summer
that's
Nights was
why-
the soundtrack of 3 or 4 summers in a row for me. That was it.
So I have something
well
I'd like to bring up. Sorry. About the playlist. I feel obligated to bring this up. So we have 2 really killer young guns on there, right? Jacob Deraps and I'm sorry.
It's a great guitar player.
Yeah. And Josh Jacobs, right?
Josh Jones.
Josh Jones. I know Josh Jacobs. See, I was getting tongue-tied. Sorry, Josh. Josh Jones and Jacob Deraps. And they're just killer guitar players. And Josh even took it a step further and did the guitar intro to Summer Nights before Summer Nights came on. And you think the actual song started. Like he played it note for note. But they're so young and have such a passion for Eddie. And they were so grateful to be asked to do this, and the energy and enthusiasm that they had. And they were so polite. You think these rocker kids, these young guys are going to just be a bunch of, drinking curses. But they were just, it was a refreshing throwback for me. And it was an honor to work with them. And I'm happy to have them on the playlist. And if you get a chance, go listen to their intros.
Yeah, seeing those two young guys play guitar and seeing those two play Van Halen, the future of guitar playing is in good hands, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you throw Cameron Brown in that mix. I mean, the future of guitar is in good hands.
Well, they also have a lot at their disposal that we did not have in terms of exposure, right?
Yeah.
Not making excuses or taking anything away from them, but it's awesome that, you know, the way Josh tells his story, he's like, he just one night was cruising through YouTube and went down the rabbit hole watching the solo from Live Without a Net. He's like, what is this, you know? And that's what turned him on to it. So if it wasn't for YouTube, he might not have ever gone down that path, you know? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have.
Well, we're
YouTube.
glad he did.
I had Dave. I had Dave to teach me about Van Halen licks.
That's nice. That's handy. Hey, we got Rob from Tessie Switch
You
joining
know,
in.
those of you that don't know, I met Anthony back in 1995 when I worked at Manny's Music in Manhattan, and he came in looking at guitars, and we started talking, and we became friends because he said he liked Van Halen. I may have had one of my Van Halen guitars there, or maybe I was playing one in the guitar department, the guitar room. I don't know. He was like, "Oh, you like Van Halen?" I was like, "Yeah," and it just never stopped. The relationship never stopped.
That's awesome.
Well, look how many friendships, developed because of Van Halen. I mean, I mean, most of us have never met, but we all have this common denominator woven throughout who we are as not only musicians but as people. To the point you were making, Anthony. I mean, it's really become those records are backdrops to big important moments in our life. The way Mike was articulating his experience as a young guy, we all share those. We all share those common experiences. So we can hear Mike's story or Anthony's story, and we immediately have a connection to that because it's similar to what's happened to us as individuals.
Absolutely.
And Van Halen brought a lot of people together, and as a guitar player whose primary influence is EVH, when I watch other guys play, I mean, we just talked about Jacob and Josh and Cameron and Caleb. And when we watch other Van Halen guys play, it brings a smile to our face because we all share the struggle. It's we all understand. We're all tuned in and understand it. Wolf said something in that interview. He said, my dad doesn't want anyone to emulate him. He wants to inspire, and you go in your own direction. Yet we can't help ourselves, right?
Well, the licks are just really much fun to play. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They're just fun to play.
But I love hearing the Eddie influence. When I listen to Charlie play, you definitely hear the Ed influence in his playing, but he's got the level of creativity that that he's able to create, develop out of that influence is extremely inspiring. So, Mike, you mentioned Phil X. I mean, you hear it all in his playing too, right? I mean, but there's an inspiration there. There's a style there that's it's cool, as a musician. But all of that playing came from Ed, and it brought us all together.
That's true. Just one of my few stories, real quick. You mentioned that Eddie didn't want anyone emulating him. So I'm sitting in his hotel room in Manhattan with him, and we both have a couple of guitars, and we're just noodling around with Panama because he was like, "Let's play." And the solo section comes up, and he asks me, he says, "Take it." So I play the record solo, and he stopped me and said, "Don't play my solo. What the hell am I going to play?" And not in other words, like, what the F are you doing? Play your shit. Don't play my shit is what he's saying. But and that's exactly it. Don't emulate him. He was saying it to me right there.
How did you even play?
I never forgot that.
My fingers would have been like, I would have just completely froze up.
Well, I got a chance to hang out with him for a whole week, so it was not like the first moment that I was hanging out with him.
All right.
So by the time we were playing together, it was like I was hanging with a buddy. You know, it was very cool.
The scariest part is you did it sober, Dave, because I'm thinking I'd need about 3 cold snacks and a walk around the block to get my head right.
Not only did I do it sober, but so did Eddie.
Wow. That's a great story. Now, that's
one of many. You know, I'm going to tell a couple stories during this show if we have time, so it'll be fun.
Rob, Tessie Switch just put a great line in there. Learning a Van Halen riff is like leveling up in a video game. It takes a lot of grinding, but it always feels like a huge accomplishment when you finally get it. Or in my case, kind of get it. I'm saying, Rob, kind of get it.
It's true. It's true. I remember when I remember trying to learn so many Van Halen songs and trying to understand what he was doing as a creator, right? Like, and I've told this story before, in the pre-chorus section of Unchained, what is going on, and how does he actually create that section? I mean, where did that come from? It had to have come, off of Al's rhythm, right? I mean, that's how it had to have originated, right? But we're all guitar players. If we could count, we'd be drummers. So we all have horrible timing as it is, right? So you throw that in the mix, and you're like, it just kind of compounds the bigger issue, right?
And he didn't count either. He just went by feel off of that.
That's true. And how many times were you like memorizing a song form, and you're saying, well, why are these sections uneven? Why aren't they laid out perfectly? Why aren't they charted? Yeah.
Yeah. Who was it? Sorry.
No,
I forget the guy's name.
They're called the Immortal Butthead because they're cool. Damn it.
There's cool. That's right.
There's a video out there somewhere where a guy actually kind of like quantized, if you will, a Van Halen song. I forget. I think it was a Run with the Devil.
It was Run with the Devil.
Yeah. And it's got to be raw. You can't have that. It can't be metered like that. It's just got to fluctuate in time the way it was meant to,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think all music should have that human feel. I don't believe in quantizing anything and none of that beat detective, none of that stuff. That's not music to me.
Nope. Music's sloppy. Well, at least the good music is.
Right.
But that's what makes it unique. It's
greasy. It's not sloppy. It's greasy.
Greasy.
Greasy. It's no different than a poet writing a great poem or an orator speaking to a crowd. There's something personal about it, right? And you got to let it breathe. And this band came out of a time where it was analog, and Van Halen got good practicing playing live for years before they ever went into a studio. Nowadays, everybody's got a studio in his bedroom. It's different. But
right, they don't play together in a studio. They play in their own bedroom.
They write songs, they record them when they write them, and they've got to go practice for 6 months before you can play in front of a crowd. It's different.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so Tinkerbell gave us his 5. Hang 'em High, Drop Dead Legs, which would probably make my top 5. House of Pain, good call. Atomic Punk, Bottoms Up, and he said, "Wow, that's not easy."
Nope.
Even if you don't submit to us and want to do an intro or whatever, just try and pick 5.
Yeah,
it's hard to do. But at the time it's kind of fun. By the way, we got Mike. We got Kurt's top 5 list. He emailed us, so we got to take a look at it.
Oh, that's cool, Kurt.
we monitor it in real time, everybody.
Oh, that's cool.
This is being done by guys and by people, I should say, because it's we want a diverse crowd of folks contributing, but we're just like you. We're just passionate fans. We happen to be able to do this, and we want people to take part in it.
Love it.
Yep. And tell your stories. And like another great one, I might just keep doing this the whole show, but I feel just so excited that people were willing to do this. John Conklin, I think, was our first one we had. And I put it up there because I just thought it perfectly stated and represented the spirit of this. That Eddie, to him was such a god, but Eddie made him feel so relaxed when he met him. He just kind of, to your point, Dave, right? You got to hang out with him, and he didn't have that way about him to make you feel on edge or nervous like, other people would.
Yeah, I agree.
And John perfectly stated that in his intro. So thanks for that again, John. Another one I wanted to bring up was my friend Sean Rivas. He used to be the lead guitar player in a band that I was in. And, he gets a little more technical with his dedication, but he says something at the end that really made sense, is that Eddie had what he calls old man chops. For a young guy, the way he played with somebody who was in his late 50s, just that experienced and had that much feel and grit behind him, that it's just like, how did that happen, at such a young age? So.
Yeah. All right. So we got a guitar technical question. Great name, Marshall Stacks. Thank you for joining us. Mixo, give me some rock guitar to listen to that uses Mixo. I'm assuming you mean Mixolydian. I want to learn more about it, maybe combined with pentatonic scales. Give me some rock guitar to listen to. Well,
yeah, that's only you, Ty, 'cause I don't even know what key I'm soloing in most of the time.
Any AC/DC, Mixolydian. All right, so how would it help? A, it's in the key of A. There's your 1 chord to a D. There's your 4 chord to a G. There's your 7, which will define the Mixolydian piece of it. Back to a 4 chord of D. All right, so why is that Mixolydian? Mixolydian major scale with a lowered 7th. And the solo in that is combined, you said maybe combined with pentascales. The solo is probably combined, like most Angus solos, combined with a minor pentatonic with a mixo on top. And if you want a penta cheat, you can do A minor pentatonic with a B minor pentatonic. Combine those together, and there you have it. Back in Black, same thing. We're talking Van Halen. Let's see, Van Halen. I would go with I just mentioned Unchained. Unchained uses D minor pentatonic with a D blues with a D Mixolydian. So there you go. The Allman Brothers. Jessica. Jessica is an A to a D, so 1 chord to a 4 chord, and it brings the G in, and you will hear the shift in the solo. That's Mixolydian. And then the same progression as Jessica is in Summer Song with Joe Satriani. So there's 4 things for you, bud. Have fun with that.
Well, there we are.
Wow.
I love
And
Summer
there's
Song.
Ty Price. Ty Price.
Dropping that SM58 right with that.
You better get a cape. You need a cape with a big S.
No, that's just too many years of learning how to play too many songs.
Oh my God.
Well, because you take the time to learn the solos too, Ty. Me, what are the 3 chords? Perfect. That's all I need.
I don't know about you, but I got to go back and watch this when we're done and write all that down.
Try co-hosting with him, Anthony.
James Gunn said, did you happen to have a chance to look into the great guitarist Tuck Andrus? Yes, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. And I can't thank you enough for that recommendation. I mean, I love getting turned on to things that I love discovering new music and new players, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Mm-hmm. Lex64, how you doing? Says top 5: Light Up the Sky, Ain't Talking About Love, Mean Street, Jamie's Crying, and Atomic Punk.
There's definitely a couple there that aren't taken, so send them in.
Nice.
And we're still toying around. Like we talked about, like, let these soak for 8 weeks and then totally do a refresh. But I've been adding them here and there as they come in. And who knows? We might even have more than one intro for the same song, just because.
Yeah, it makes it different. You get because. I mean, there's going to come a time you're going to play the same song, and someone's going to want to hear something different about it.
Right.
No, what's really interesting is that Mike and I were talking about this today. It's like the reception to the intros is really amazing to see. Like we know people are listening to the intros even more than the music in some cases.
Yeah.
So
sorry, again.
No, Mike, by all means.
The analytics, I won't go into the actual numbers, but I was looking at it right before this because I figured this would come up. It's literally double. So the time spent listening to the intros is double time spent listening to the songs. That's how much people are interested
I
in
don't
hearing.
understand that because we've heard the songs, but we haven't heard the stories and the experiences. And
Exactly.
like, Anthony, like we've been talking about the grieving experience together.
Right.
We want to hear each other's stories.
Well, that's it. It's like going to a wake, and everyone tells their little story about how their experiences with the dead guy. You know, for all intents and purposes.
Sure.
So yes, it's that is the fun part because you hear the songs all the time. You definitely want to hear people's stories. It's the cool part.
Yeah. And these are stories. It's a mix of everyday people. It's like what we tried to create here is something that will never happen again in person. In other words, you're not going to be at a Van Halen show ever again with all these other like-minded people. Right, so that's kind of what this is, a virtual representation of.
Absolutely, great way to put it. And it's funny because not to name drop or anything, but Pete Thorne's another big name that's on the playlist right now, and he was just so willing to go above and beyond. We just asked for 2 60-second intros for the 2 songs that we gave him, and he sent a 4.5-minute video. So he said, "Do what you want with it, rip the audio, whatever." So I ripped the audio for each track. He did little guitars and 30 movies. And then I put the 4-minute video on social media, and it's just unbelievable. The story he tells about walking into 5150 for the first time and Eddie just jamming at the console and what Eddie leaned over and said to him. It's just awesome. You got to go listen to it. And
he does a dead-on impression of him, too. A really good impression of him.
He does do it.
Yep. It was just great. Between him and Phil X, that was a real honor. They both had great stories. I think Phil's, for me, kind of hands down, is the most funny and interesting and like, how could that have even happened? Like without planning it, and it did. And he was just so grateful to do it as well.
The thing I love the most about that basically comes across in everybody's intro, and there's a ton of great people there. Greg Renoff, who wrote Van Halen Rising, participated. You mentioned Eddie Trunk, and obviously some of the bigger names that you mentioned, and friends and people we have not met, right? But it's just this common thread of passion, just a deep respect, and this not maniacal fanaticism. It's just very cool. People they're just you can hang out with these folks. We all share that same love, and isn't that amazing? You could talk about Eddie's innovation and guitar playing and the impact on the world of music till you're blue in the face, but he brought joy to people. He played with joy, and even in the midst of this kind of mourning period that we're all still in, you can still experience that joy, and I think that's the best thing that comes across in the playlist.
Yeah, without a doubt. Then that video of him that went around for a while, where I guess it was towards the end of his life, where he says, "You got to keep playing, man." Like even though he knew he wasn't going to be around much longer, he was trying to put everyone else at ease and tell us it's going to be okay. Just keep playing. Like, how do you have that kind of bravery? Like, just
simple advice, but good advice.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the biggest reasons Eddie inspired me to pick up a guitar was that smile on his face whenever I saw
He
him.
was always having fun, wasn't he?
That's it, right there.
He made it look fun.
He did. He did. I'm like, dang. Yeah.
And
He's terrifying.
yeah,
Fun and terrifying at the same time.
like it was almost like the way he was smiling. It's like, you're never going to be able to do this, Like,
the thing that I was very lucky to. My mother is a huge music fan, but I grew up with a mother with an incredible record collection, and part of her love for music was a live experience. She liked to go to concerts, and she loved to take me into, and any band I wanted to see, any band I was interested in, she'd take me. And so I started seeing Van Halen very young. And I was very lucky to see him a whole lot of times. And I was able to, anyway, same as you. The thing I'm going to miss most is not being in the same room with him. You know, because when you were in, I don't care how big the room was. I mean, it was an arena. It was a huge room, but we were in the same room with that gift. You know, that's what I will miss most, because there was nothing like seeing it live. You know, my wife is a writer by trade, and she articulated something so well the day after he passed. And, you know, she was a casual Van Halen listener till we met. And she even, you know, she was even cool enough to go to concerts with me and see him. And I will never forget the first time I took her to see Van Halen. She leans over 5 songs in and she was like, all right, I get it now. That's the kind of impact greatness has on even the most casual of listener. And she recalled that instance, you know, after his passing, that she'll miss all of that, but she got to stand in the same room with him. You know, it's pretty amazing.
It's surreal. It's really surreal. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I just look at the comments here. Yeah, you know, like, yes, Eddie's attitude was so awesome. Hello, Daniel Horsley. Ty nailed it again. Yep. I agree. And we got Alan Garber. He's done some deep dives on some Van Halen tunes in his time. I know. It's great to see Alan in here.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
So how about another David story? A time.
Yeah.
Story time.
Let me answer. Hey, Dave. Let me answer this question real quick before you get to your story. Says Marshall says Back in Black. Really, how? I'm guessing you're talking about the mixer thing. All right. So think of this: if it's in the key of E, and then we go to that D chord, that is a lowered 7th chord in E major, right? So if you think about Back in Black, you're talking about the E to the D to the A. That's your 1 chord to your 7 chord to your 4 chord again. And then that solo 2. That solo is very modal. So you'll have a great time. You'll have a great time with that. You'll see how the 2 pentatonic scales lay on top of each other. And the 2, you'll see how the 2 scales sit on top of each other. It'll be in E pentatonic, and then it'll also be in E mixolydian. AC/DC, man, you can't go wrong. Like Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, that intro, again in E, that is E mixo because it brings the D into the phrasing. AC/DC is a great place to start if you want to study that kind of thing.
You know what's amazing? Even more amazing? I bet you Angus has no clue what any of that means.
I'll tell you what, he might, and you know what, Mike? You're probably right. And I don't know of he asked for a rock player example. I don't know that anybody does it better than Angus. At least in my orbit.
Right? He just did what sounded good.
And what was the first band that Eddie turned Wolfgang on to? AC/DC.
There you go.
Yeah.
It all comes back, you know.
Well, I think I think like if you're exploring blues rock guitar, right, and you start exploring blues rock soloing, that's a pretty good place to start. I mean, those early records are. I mean, think about what those records do for you rhythmically. I mean, think about what they do for you from a chord standpoint. You know, when my son wanted to start playing guitar, I gave him a guitar and an AC/DC record and said, "Have fun." You know, I mean that's a great place to start with 6 chords. And you get 6 chords, that's a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn how to play rhythm real quick.
Oh yeah.
Or you'll sound terrible doing it. You know, it's a great training ground for sure. And the songwriting, I mean, come on.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what's your story there, Mr. Nesel?
So, all right. So 1997. First of all, Manny's Music had a habit of loaning guitars to celebrities when they came into town, if they came in without guitars, to do whatever local late night shows or whatever. Clapton borrowed a Clapton Strat to do late night with David Letterman, or no, Saturday Night Live, or one of those things. A bunch of people came in and borrowed guitars. So 1997, Eddie Van Halen calls the store, says he's coming in, and the owner, the old man Henry, who's now gone, gets me on the phone with him, and Eddie says, "Listen, I'm coming to town. I'm not bringing a guitar with me. Do you have a Wolfgang?" And you have, and there were no Wolfgangs at the store yet. So I said, "Hang on one second." There was one Music Man. It was a green one. It was in a box, unopened box, belonged to a customer that hadn't picked it up. I call the customer. Customer says, "I don't care who wants to play it. I don't want that box open." So Eddie was like, "Do you have anything? Two humbuckers and a Floyd Rose. I need something. I'm going to do a session." I think it was with Blinded Me with Science. What the hell is his name?
Thomas Dolby.
Thomas Dolby. I'm almost positive it was Thomas Dolby. So I said to Eddie, "When are you coming?" He says, "Well, I'll be in the next 45 minutes. I said, "Can you wait an hour and a half? I'll go home and get my personal guitar," because the store didn't have anything with the Floyd Rose on it at the time. And of course, I'm going to loan my hero one of my personal guitars. It was a Music Man. So I hopped on a train, went all the way home, came back to the store. He sends a runner in, grabs my guitar in a case, strap, cable, everything that he needed. Had it from like Thursday till the Monday. And then he comes back. He comes in on Monday with the guitar and explains to me why he couldn't autograph my guitar, but also wrote on on the back of a pack of strings the reasons why he couldn't sign it, and thanked me for the thing. He gave me a bunch of pics, the whole 9 yards. He was the sweetest guy, and he borrowed my personal guitar for a weekend in 1997.
Wow. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great story, Dave.
And that's the beginning of the stories. That's where it starts.
Hey, there's my lovely sister Amanda in the chat. Hey, sis.
Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Amanda. Hey, Taylor 3315.
I'd just like to say, so was it a doctor or a dentist that had bought that green Music Man? What moron buys that model guitar and doesn't want Eddie to play it? I understand if you just bought, a Charvel, we'll say, with a humbucker.
Here's the thing. Well, here's the thing. The green color, there was only like 60 green guitars made. Green Music Man guitars. And I understood. I personally would have let Eddie borrow the guitar, but I understood why someone wanted to keep it unopened in a box. I get that. They weren't making any more of those guitars. He just wanted it to be, untouched. I get it. I wouldn't have done it, but I get it. And it gave me the opportunity to lend Eddie guitar. So Dan in New Jersey says, "Why couldn't Eddie sign it?" Well, he had a deal with PV, and he was not allowed to sign anything else at the time other than PV guitars.
Right. Hey, Brian Spalding and Charles
Hey,
Green.
Brian Spalding. Talk about monster guitar players.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the truth?
Hey, Thomas.
Tom's
Hey, Charles Green.
Absolute Mayhem's in here helping out. Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people, 45 people watching us right now.
Nice.
I hope Charles doesn't mind me telling this story, but I'm gonna have the opportunity to meet Charles in the fall, because Charles, Tony, and I will all be at the same concert in September.
I'm just picturing a cool Trans Am in the parking lot and the three of you kids hanging out on the hood of it.
I wish I had a Trans Am. I'm not gonna lie.
Who are you going to see?
We're gonna go see Guns N' Roses with Mammoth WVH.
Yeah.
Nice.
Same here.
Nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Tinkerbell says, wouldn't the guitar be more valuable if Eddie played it? Not necessarily. I mean,
Only if you can prove it,
it would
really.
be, it would be,
You'd have to get
it would be
photos.
more valuable. It would be valuable if there was photos of him playing it, autographing it, blah, blah, blah. But even so, it's not. It wasn't personally owned by him, so it's not going to make it any more valuable, really.
Why would you want to sell it anyway?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I
know,
think.
Dave-
You ready for a story? Sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
No, I one of the times I met Eddie, I can't believe I did this too. As a matter of fact, I wanted him to sign one of my Music Man guitars on the Balance store, and I knew I was going to meet him backstage because I was working for a terrestrial radio station at the time. I drove to the Meadowlands with my most prized possession, my red Music Man, in the trunk. And then I realized that just the logistics of how far it was, where I had to walk and all this other stuff, I couldn't actually physically get it in the building. So I left it in the trunk of my car for the show. Thank God I still have it. Nothing happened. But I would never do that today. Never. I would never part with that. Never leave it. Never let it out of my sight. And
Well,
there
I
it was
mean,
for like 3 hours in the trunk of my car.
That's a $10,000 guitar right now.
But even right, but you know, Dave, every the deep personal stories and stuff. What my mother went through to get me that guitar.
I remember the story. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
crazy.
So,
So,
Dave,
Mike,
that,
you remember the story?
yeah,
What's that?
You just added insult to injury to my story, Dave. So, in
I was going
Like
to say,
the early
did Mike
90s.
buy a green Music Man at one point and insisted nobody touch it?
no, it's
Oh, hang
Come
on,
on.
Let me get you. There we go. It's very hard to see it. It's all washed out. Is that green?
it's a red one, right?
Oh, it's a red.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Nice.
All right, so that was in the early to mid '90s. I had a band, and I was the first one to buy that guitar out of our local music store, Russo Music here in Hamilton, New Jersey. And I think I paid like $1,200 for it. And I brought it home, and it was like my baby. And I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, so to me that was like, justified to spend the money on that. And that's how I kind of sold the idea to my mom and stepdad. And I played the hell out of that guitar, tons of gigs with it. Brought it into my married life. It just kind of sat under a bed. I didn't play it the whole time I was married to my first wife. You wouldn't even know I was a musician. I didn't play at all. And it wasn't really anything like, that she kind of was leaning on me about. It was just that I felt obligated to be more of a family guy and work on our house, and did a lot of remodeling stuff. So we needed a shed. And I was like, I got that guitar sitting under bed. I don't even play anymore. But I can get at least $1,500 for it. So this is when like eBay first came around. Sure enough, I put it on there, and I had an autographed photo of Eddie sitting on a flight case with the blonde Ernie Ball Music Man. And I sold both of them for $1,400. And bought the shed. Now I don't have the shed, the money, the guitar, or the wife anymore. And
Wow.
But
And
you're smiling still.
well, you know what? Such is life. And
Such
Well,
is
there's a
life.
story. There's a story now.
and
It's a
my
good story.
lovely fiance in the other room, who's an amazing singer, but we'll get into that another time. She offered to buy one for me right before Eddie died, like maybe a year before Eddie died. And I was like, I can't make you do that. Like, you still have school loans you're paying off and everything, and it's just a guitar. Don't worry about it. And then he died, and then now they're like 10,000 plus. She said, I told you I would have bought you one. I said, oh my God. So, don't ever part with it. I don't care what it's worth. You'll kick yourself in the ass someday, like I am.
Good advice. But it's
Yeah.
a good story. We always have. Look, we're players, and we sell things to get other things,
Well, that's
and
it.
that's just part of it.
And a lot of us go
but-
through that point. in
And we
time
all have
where
the
they
ones
do
that got away.
sit in the case.
We all have the ones that got away, but that's what makes them as the ones that got away. They're not here anymore. We have to remember them. We have to remember them fondly. I was telling my wife about this guitar that I never should have sold, and she quickly reminded me, that was the guitar you just never played. I hardly remember it.
That's right.
I hardly even remember it.
It's funny. Ironically, we're talking about guitars that got away. Well, none of those for me would be a Van Halen guitar. None of them. I mean, they're cool guitars. They're fantastic for a lot of people. I'm a big guy, so they're very small. They're very small for me. I always loved having them for a second, and then I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I'm playing a toy. I can't play this thing. So
I can only imagine, Dave, because they feel small on me.
I wind up selling every one of them. So, to me, they're not the guitars that got away. So, but they are cool guitars. They're awesome looking. They play awesome. They're just, I mean, it's Eddie's guitar. How could it not be cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for that reason was why I bought. I remember every story, every single thing about that first model, the Ernie Ball Music Man. How the F sharp around the back of the neck was, laser scan just so they can get that indent perfect and all that. But even more so, I'm a small guy, and it was a little bit of a scaled down guitar, and it also fit in a flight case that would go in the overhead compartment in an airplane.
So that little on the F sharp,
right,
that's on this guitar.
and that's the guitar they scanned, right?
Yeah,
Yes, but I mean on this particular one too, I had it put in there.
Oh man,
Yeah, so that's how close this guitar is to Eddie's actual guitar. That I even had that indentation put in this.
Yeah, that's cool. Do profound statements run in your family, Ben? I mean, Amanda just says, just as there are the ones that get away, there are those that are yet to be had.
Ain't that
Well done, Amanda. Well done.
She's got the brains out in the family. I'm just the blind squirrel that finds a nut once in a while.
I don't know. You both have a way. Both of you seem to have a way with words.
Could
That's
be
right.
growing up with an entertainer for a father, who's also long-winded. Just saying. You can tune in on my channel for Father's Day special with him coming up soon.
Oh, really? That'll be cool.
Yeah,
man.
I have my dad on every year for Father's Day.
That's
well,
cool.
plug it for real. Plug it for real right now.
Yeah, so when's Father's Day? Not this Sunday, but next Sunday, 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern on my channel. It's the 4th show we've done together, I think. The 4th annual Father's Day special with my dad, who is a longtime musician and music fan, and playing gigs. He's worked at music festivals. He met a few cool cats, played in some cool jam sessions over the years, and it's amazing when his name comes up, and it still surprises me. I get it, for years going into music stores. Oh, you're Dave's son, but Dave and Ty, when you had Arlen Roth on, and Arlen talked about years working with John Prine, and I brought up Dad's name, and Arlen, it's like Toronto, early 70s. Yeah, I know that name. I'm just like, I was blown away. Meanwhile, I tell my dad, and he's like, who? Oh, that guy that hung out with John. I'm like, that's my dad, and very entertaining shows. He's got an opinion on everything, and be interesting. Ask him about Eddie Van Halen, and he'll bunch of noise. He's not playing to clean, because my dad, as much gain you need is John Fogerty, CCR. That's it, So he's like, it's a bunch of noise, but he was like, wow, because he's seen the YouTube videos. He's like, so Les Paul had some props for Eddie Van Halen. I'm like, yeah, he did, Dad. Yeah, he did. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, you're not into it, but believe me, Dad, he set the world on fire.
My favorite.
I look forward to seeing that show, Ben.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one for sure.
That's a cool.
He'll
thing,
talk
yeah.
about his $300 guitar. That's what he refers to a 67 Tele. Sorry, $400 guitar now. We found the original invoice a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully we'll show it off that night. He's like, hey, I was going through some old papers because he's going through boxes. And here's the original invoice because he got it through a finance company. So the $300 guitar ended up being a $400 guitar after financing.
Yeah, sure.
My favorite
Zeke
was,
says that the Music Man EVH Axis was the best EVH model in his opinion. Certainly a great guitar, no question.
Yeah.
I love that video that Ed made before they released the Fender version, where he said, this is everything I got. This is everything I've learned. This is everything I want in a guitar. And Chip Ellis says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like, I dare you to change anything on it. You as the consumer, you purchase this guitar, I dare you to change anything. We've already changed it all. We've done all the mods. We've done all of this. We've made these improvements. And, I have 2 of those guitars, and pretty fantastic.
Well,
Was that the one where he said he left it in the room for I forget how long and just let the feedback?
That's
when he was testing the amp.
That's the amp one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, you've been doing these, Q&A style shows for years. I've been doing them a few years. I don't think I've ever had a question in the chat regarding upgrading anything on a Wolfgang.
Oh, I have. And the only thing the upgrade is the Floyd. Put a German-made Floyd on it, and then it's unstoppable.
Right.
Because the Floyd that comes on it is an F1000 made in Korea.
Sure.
Which is what he preferred, right?
Well, it kept the price of the guitar a little bit lower, and it didn't matter to him. He's got someone tuning them up for him as he's playing them. So what does it matter to him?
That's true.
Rob from Tessie Switch says that's pretty funny. He said Eddie also said if I ever need another singer than Gary Sharon, I'll give up guitar and start playing the tuba.
I remember that too.
That's funny. So speaking of upgrading a Wolfgang, so I have a USA Wolfgang. It needed upgrading. I sent it to Nesdal, and Nesdal called Rob at Tessie Switch, and they put a Tessie Switch in my Wolfgang.
Well, that is the one upgrade, right?
Well, Dave, now that Dave mentioned it, is he put a new Floyd on my Wolfgang as well. You put a German Floyd on it, didn't you?
Certainly did.
You put it on both of them, I think, didn't you, Dave? Yeah, you put it on both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to. If you want that guitar to stay in tune, yes. And if you say the Korean Floyd stays in tune fine, then you're not playing the guitar.
But Ed played the Korean Floyd, right?
Yeah, he played the Korean Floyd, but after a couple songs, he give it to Tom Weber.
He also had time.
He switched guitars in 2015. He switched guitars pretty often. There were like 3 or 4 keyboard songs. The little guitar song, which had the little guitars, then the Charvel Art Series guitars. I guess those would be the keyboard songs, and then the songs that were in standard. I think Tattoo was was it Tattoo? One of those newer songs were in standard tuning, and he used a red Wolfgang for that.
Oh, I love that guitar.
That wasn't in
Me
15.
too.
That was in 12 and 13.
12. Yeah, I started to say that was in 12 because it was satin red and it had the block inlays.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
I always wanted that to be a production model.
One year, the first year, that guitar had a black Floyd on it. Second year, it had a chrome Floyd on it. So he did switch the Floyds out on it.
Did the USA Wolfgangs always come with the what country is the Floyd made in?
Korea. F1000. Yes.
The F1000. So okay.
Yeah. And the reason why he went with it is because they did the EVH brand for him. They put the EVH brand on it. Floyd Rose, the German ones, they wouldn't do it for him. They wouldn't let him have his own branding. So he went with that. That's really the reason why with those bridges.
Makes sense as an OEM type setup. But it's interesting, that Eddie was one of the guys because he was a tinkerer, but he isn't one of those guys that would take his signature guitar. And there was nothing about the production model that was left on the guitar. Like a lot of artists will release a signature guitar, but then they hand it to the tech that puts different pickups, different bridge, different this, different that. And you're like, well, is it really the same as the signature guitar I can buy? Whereas with Eddie, it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's his thing. It's like I sell the same gear I play on.
Yeah.
I have to interject. Bozique says Wolfgangs are both good, but the Music Man was great. I beg to differ with you. Yes, the idea of the Music Man is a great guitar, but the fact is the radius of that neck is a 10-inch radius, and the radius of that Floyd Rose is 12 inches. So both your E strings were high no matter what you did. If you wanted low action, your middle 4 strings were low, and the 2 E strings were high. And there's nothing you could do about it because of the radius of the fretboard. So that was all changed with the other guitars. He went with a 12-inch radius on the fretboard, made it so that you can have low action on all 6 strings.
Every iteration of his signature guitar had some kind of improvement to it.
Yes.
And you're not going to find a bigger fan of the Music Man guitars than me. I
still have a Music Man. I don't have any EVH guitars. I don't have any PV Wolfgangs. I still have a Music Man, which is cool, but that doesn't make it the best one.
No, I think even if you compare the PV Wolfgang versus the Fender one, there's enough little tweaks in there, like the graphite reinforced neck and little tweaks here and there. And the stainless steel frets. I love my PV Wolfgang, but my Fender made one feel like a cross between a Lamborghini and a Rolls Royce. It's amazing. An amazing.
I'll tell you, that truss ride improvement. I mean, solved so many problems for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can thank Charvel for that. They actually came out with that.
Well, holy smoke, that alone. But also on the EVHs, like my Ivory one, I think is a 15. Dave, is it like a 15? It's the first year that they did the Ivies. When did what was that? The Ivy with the ebony board and the blocks. Is that 15? Okay. Well, anyway, but the Lumidots on it again, like all of it was done for the stage, and it solved like so many issues for me, and it immediately made very expensive guitars maybe a little less functional. Maybe there wasn't quite enough innovation in these other guitars. I was really struck with the EVH Wolfgang guitar. I was as very, very versatile instrument, but very playable in a live environment, just very useful. I felt like no stone was unturned.
Mm-hmm. Right. Bo Zeke, I'm not going to sit here and argue. Of course, you have your opinion, I have mine, which is fine. But have you ever played the USA version EVH, or have you just played the Mexican and Indonesian ones? Because they are different. The American one is really, if you haven't played one, you should try one if you can find one.
And I will agree with Bozique on the Super Sport Access, which is what I have. It's a hardtail, and that's what I need, because I can't use those wiggle sticks. That's beyond me. So I'm on that, and which I'm glad that Music Man did bring those out, and the fact that Eddie was willing to bring out a hardtail too. He wanted a guitar for the Les Paul player. He wanted a guitar for a guy that doesn't use the Floyd. And guess what? When I got my Wolfgang hardtail, I don't think I picked up a Les Paul for 6 months. For that reason, I was just like, wow.
A little lighter too, right?
Yeah, lighter. Better balance.
You were able to get through life without playing a Les Paul for 6 months?
Well,
that's a thing? Right? That's a real thing?
It can be when you have a hardtail Wolfgang sitting here.
Sadly, I do not own a Les Paul, and I must rectify the situation.
Oh, well, jeez.
That's a real thing, too?
It's terrible.
I thought that was a myth. I thought that was only something that people said when they didn't want their wife to know what was actually in that Kirby case.
Yeah.
I did play one for a long time, though. I had borrowed one when I was really just learning. I was 15 or 16, and it was a Moonburst. I guess it was an 83, and it had the machine. The tuning machines would flip out with little handles in them. They were heavy. Mm-hmm. You never needed a string winder because it was built into the machine heads. Great guitar.
I don't own a Les Paul either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all amazing.
I will say this, I mean, if you're up and you're doing a 145 set or a 2-hour set, they're not your friend at the end of that at the end of that night. But my Lord Almighty, do they do what they do well?
They do.
They just have a bite to them that is unmistakable.
Unmistakable.
Yeah. And that's why Eddie kept one around the studio.
And his was a 58.
Yeah, I've told this story before, Anthony, but I love all kinds of guitars. I love them, and I love to play them. I love to own all kinds of different guitars, but I will always kind of gravitate back toward. I never go very long without playing a Les Paul, because for some reason, and I believe I understand the reason now. It's the guitar for me. It's the feel, it's the spacing, it's the scale, it's all of those things combined that's for me.
Yeah,
I
Tommy,
can
show us
totally
that beautiful
respect
guitar behind you. Give us an
Huh?
example. Show us that beautiful guitar behind you. Give us
Yeah,
an
that's a
example.
good guitar. I've shown that guitar before, and I play that guitar in a tribute gig, and it's a great version of a new 2021 standard, and man, is it a good guitar! It does its thing. It's strung 11 to 49 and 11 to 48. And half step down.
Yeah, but all my Gibsons are 11 to 49. All of them.
So
They
Dave
don't
uses
feel like
Gidarios with 11 through 49. Ty's
Yeah.
went with Ernie Balls with 11 through 48, because that's the difference between the 11s.
Yeah.
Not that I played 11s for years myself.
But when you do play, look, if I'm going to play a Van Halen song, I'm not. That's not the setup for me. That doesn't inspire me to play that particular piece of music. The way that music was created. But the kind of music I'm playing on that, that helped create that music. So it just feels right, and I can interpret that as a player, I feel appropriately. And Bozique is right. Yeah, that's a Slash model. And yeah, they call that the November Rain Burst, which is a really nice tobacco.
Yeah,
Which I've always been partial to.
I like Bozique's comment there, saying Dave's working on rivaling Joe Bonamassa's Les Paul collection.
Nobody can. I think he's up to 18 bursts, 18, 19 real bursts.
Yeah.
Who has? I mean, at a $500,000 pop. Who has,
Joe Bonamassa.
Joe Bonamassa.
That's about it.
he doesn't. He owes a lot of people a lot of money.
What are you saying? He's being like wimpy? I'll kindly take that burst today and pay you Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's not how it happens. Nobody does, and which is very cool because he's got the clout. He's of that celebrity. He will trade 2 or 3 of guitars that he's used on videos and on TV and blah blah blah, major gigs. Like he's taken the gold top that he used at the Albert Hall that was on video. He traded that and got something really not, a burst or whatever. I don't remember what he traded that for, but he does that all the time. He trades guitars that are well known as being Joe Bonamassa's guitars and gets what he wants with that stuff.
I would love, and I've been fortunate enough to play a real burst once, and I will never be able to thank the owner of that enough for that experience. But I've never played an original Carina V, and that's next on my wish list.
I got a chance to do that 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I had one in my hands. It was amazing.
Oh.
I wasn't allowed to take a picture with it though.
Nice. I tried to play an actual burst once when I was at Carter's, and they just laughed. They said, "No, we put the burst away during NAMM week. It's just too much of a headache."
So when you're saying actual burst, what are you? I mean, I know different burst colors I've seen in paint. Is it a 59 burst?
Well,
It was a 9. My experience was a 9. Yeah.
It's 58 through 60. That's what people call bursts. It could be any color burst. A burst is a Les Paul standard from 1958 through 1960.
And they basically all started as a cherry burst, but they just in no time turned into your lemon bursts, your cherry bursts.
Well, 58s and 59s did, and the beginning of 1960s, there's 3 versions. three different versions of 60s, maybe two.
Two.
They went to a different the aniline red. They changed the formula because the aniline red that they used up till mid 1960 would fade in the sunshine. So a store would put the guitar in the storefront window. In a couple weeks, there'd be no red in it. So they changed that. They changed the formula in mid 1960. And that's why they call those guitars tomato soup, because they kept all the red.
But there's also a slight difference in neck shape too, right?
Oh, yeah. Well,
no, I'm talking between 60V1 and 60V2.
Well, here's the thing. You can find a fat neck 60. It depends on who made it, what day of the week it was, what part of the day it was. Most of the time, the 60s had a slimmer taper feel. But there were times when necks were bigger. There were times when 59s and 58s had smaller necks. I recently got a chance to play 7 different bursts. A 58 that had a much smaller neck than a 59, and a 60 that had a larger neck than a 59. It was really bizarre, because you think, well, 58's the biggest, and then they went down as the years went on. That's not always the case.
The 59 that I played had a very...
One at a
What's
time.
that?
I said it depends if you ding the back of the neck around the F sharp. Then you got to shave her down a little thinner.
The 59 I played did not have a big neck at all. In fact, it was so comfortable, easy. Everything about the guitar lived up to the reputation.
Well, what you have to remember is, if you're used to playing a custom shop, historic collection, 50s Les Paul, if you were to play the original of that same year, it don't feel anything like that. The necks are a lot smaller than the custom shop versions of it. A lot smaller.
So the neck, I know that so much of the Van Halen guitars were based on the 5150 neck, right? The guitar that you're holding, Dave. So many of the VH guitars were. So what's that neck based on?
It's its own entity, and unless you played Eddie's original 5150 guitar, which I don't think any of us have, you'll never know really what it feels like. I mean, I'm guessing that this is close, but who knows? No one will ever know. I mean, maybe Scott Smith knows, because I think he's played the guitar and he works for Musicraft, and this is a Musicraft neck. So we're guessing that this is pretty close to what it was, to what his guitar is, but who really knows? But that neck wasn't derived from anything. It was a neck that Paul Unkert made. It was an asymmetrical neck. It had more beef on the low string side, and it came more to a point on the treble side. So it looked like a G, like a C clef, a back C clef. So it's asymmetrical. So it's not even on both sides.
Okay, so it's asymmetrical, but it has a 10-inch radius.
No, I don't think so. I think his Kramer had a flatter radius. I think he went to the 10-inch radius at the Music Man on the Music Man.
So why the change? So did he only want to keep the feel on the back of the neck shape for the Music Man? He didn't want the entire.
I don't have that answer. I honestly don't have that answer. I wouldn't know. I can speculate that maybe the 5150 guitar maybe started with a 10-inch radius, and then throughout all the fret jobs,
flattened.
It got flattened a bit. I don't know, but
it probably didn't exceed like a 12-inch, right?
But also, I don't think it really got flattened that much, because all that patina that you see on this neck that was on the original guitar, all those dirt marks, never went away until Music Man fixed that neck in 1990. So I don't know if that neck has actually ever been planed. Maybe the frets were planed to be flatter, but I think the neck was whatever original radius that neck was. And I really don't know what it is. I don't know what.
I'm going to blow this because I'm not much of a technician. I'm a player. So I'm going to blow this big time. But I'm hoping I can articulate it clear enough to ask the question. So the frets on the EVH guitars, Music Man, PVs, EVH, they're all unique. They're tall and high is how I would describe them. I mean, they're tall and thin is how I would describe them.
Correct.
Are those the frets that are on the 5150 guitar?
No, he had big frets on it.
Were they jumbo, medium jumbo, or jumbo?
Jumbos. Yeah, all the frets on all those Kramers had jumbo frets. Whatever frets they put on Kramer guitars is what was
like
on
jumbo, like in 6100 jumbo.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bozique has a question. I've got a question about that. I've heard that the Music Man neck was based on a Kramer neck that also heard was a Telly neck that he loved. So which story is true? Well, a 58 Telecaster is very much like the 5150 neck. It's round. It's not asymmetrical, but it's kind of small and round like the Music Man neck. I say that because I owned a 58 Telecaster at one point, and that's exactly what the neck felt like.
Yeah, they were flirting with some of those V-neck designs and stuff around that time. I know Fender was, which could give you that, like it could be like if he had even a V-neck, right, Dave? And he says, I like the bottom half of the V-neck, but I'd like a little more meat on the top half. Yeah,
it's even more of a C neck, but it's like a chunky C. It's not really a V-neck because it doesn't come to a point at all. But 58 necks are very comfortable, and it's really what this is, except if it was an even C around instead of asymmetrical.
Nice.
Josh has a question. Anyone know what the black stuff was on the 5150 before it got cleaned?
Tone Mojo.
What black stuff? On the neck, you mean?
Yeah.
It's called dirt. It's called dirt and grime.
DNA. Tone DNA.
It's called skin.
There might have been some like nicotine in there too, because I'm sure you've blown smoke.
Of course.
That's a good point, Mike. Nicotine,
A lot of it.
oil from the skin,
A lot of it.
maybe some other substances. Who knows?
So what you gotta remember is back when he first got the guitar, the neck was not unfinished. It had finish on it. He didn't like that, so he took a razor blade and scraped the finish off the fretboard. But at some point, he either forgot where he was or got bored of doing it. So there are light spots and dark spots. The dark spots are where he took the finish off, and the light spots are where the finish is still on the guitar. And that's how I did this guitar. I finished the whole guitar, taped off, got pictures of his neck, taped off, and then pencil drew where all the wear marks are, used a Sharpie, and then scraped around the Sharpie. So
Sounds
that's
like-
why his neck is dirty exactly the way his neck was.
Sounds like our buddy Steve there, Anthony.
Yeah.
You also hear like, obviously he's an artist, so he continues to develop. So one may not have to do with the other. So I'll go ahead and qualify that. But you also hear how the songwriting changed, how the playing evolved with each of the guitars, right? So I came into Van Halen very early. The Van Halen guitar for me is always going to be the black and white. Always. There it is right there on the cover, right? The Frankie is my Van Halen guitar. Dave, I think you've got the 5150 as your guitar. Others had the Music Man, or if they came in on the Balance record, they had the PV guitar. All of the music around those periods as well is different. How did the instrument you begin to ask yourself, how did the instrument that he was playing at the time influence the art that he was creating?
I got to tell you, I think out of all of those, the album that really stands out is Balance. Is just being totally different sonically. Just that guitar sound was not like anything on any other album before or after.
My least favorite.
You're exactly right. And how many guys chase that huge, wide, balanced tone?
A lot of
know,
them. Chris Hubbard has it, and Rob Johnson has it. They have that tone. They've got that rig. It's amazing. Bozique asked if I sold or traded most of my Kramer replicas, or do I still own most of them? I have only two. I have this one, and I have the 1984 Kramer that Paul Unkert made the neck for.
Was that the neck I picked up for you?
It is.
Hey, Tom. Tom's here. Good to see you, man.
What's going on, Tom?
All right, so Anthony,
Yeah,
what's your favorite Eddie Van Halen guitar over the years?
Well, so you know what? I think the 5150 is my personal favorite, just because that was the one I saw him play the most. And I think about years ago, because I'm an old guy now, I guess. Before we had the internet and the ability to just comb photo after photo and crowdsource and all the Facebook groups where we've all talked about what paint to use and what kind of tape to tape the guitar with, and to build our replicas. I really didn't know the difference in the widths of the stripes. I didn't notice those things. Most of the time he was moving with the guitar, right? But yeah, to answer your question, it's really the 5150 for me. Out of production guitars, I gotta probably go with the Music Man because I love the way that sounds the best. And at the same time, just utter awe and respect for what he turned the Wolfgang into for the last USA Made version. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. What about you, Mike? What is your so Balance is your tone? What's your Van Halen guitar?
I really like the Bumblebee.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
Nice.
It just, to me, that was like, again, just mean and dark looking, and it was basically, there you go.
Here's the bridge that goes on the Bumblebee.
Really?
Yep, that's the bridge
Like
right
V1?
there.
Wow.
Yep, big steel block. That's the one.
Nice.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes along with the 78 Frankie, like you said, Ty, but to me, it's like even darker and more, aggressive, in aesthetics anyway. But, and then, I do like the story behind what eventually happened with it, with Dimebag.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But, I still have that red Ernie Ball Music Man that's near and dear to my heart for, that story. And also that sonic, that sound of Balance. Even though the songwriting on Balance, I agree with you, Dave, wasn't my favorite, but the sound, the sonic, side of things was really different.
I think I speak for all of us that, we all have our favorite one guitar that he used. But let's be honest, no matter what guitar he used, he was a work of art with it. He had a blue Yamaha with red tape for a couple of shows back in 1980. He was a master with that guitar too. It doesn't matter what guitar he used. Any photo, any photography with him with a guitar is like I want to own every one of them. I want to know about every one of them. I want to own every one of them. Yeah, then I want to sell every one of them. But it's like everything you see him play. There was a photo that came out earlier this year from 1982. He was playing a white Kramer Pacer with black stripes, and it wasn't striped all the way around the guitar. It was just the front, and then the whole back of the guitar is black. It's white with black stripes, and I think that's one of the coolest guitars ever too, with a beak neck headstock on it. Just a really cool guitar. Never seen it before in our lives. Unearthed earlier this year.
Yeah, very cool. It was a cool photo.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny too because there's not only some photos that we haven't seen before, but it's also some videos. This week alone with that promotional video from Italy.
Yep.
Yeah. How about the video of him in the studio playing the earliest version of
Amsterdam
playing a Charvel.
Yeah.
Clearly the Kramer guy at that point because it's 85, but he's playing a white Charvel.
And I got to point something out about that too, Dave. Thank you for remembering that he was playing an older song. They got so much grief for a different kind of truth. Oh, they didn't put enough effort into it. There's a lot of old recycled demos and stuff. Van Halen did that the entirety of their career. Went back, listened to tapes, listened to riffs, turned them into songs. And there's a classic example. Nobody's bitching about Amsterdam now that he didn't try, right? You know, we're so lucky we got a different kind of truth now. That album was great.
I love that record.
Who is even to say that 1985 is when he first came out with that riff? It's just that he happened to be playing it at that moment in time.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Truth record is, I mean, the anticipation one, I felt like I was 14 again, waiting on that record. And then putting the physical in the car. I remember just sitting there. I remember listening to that record the first time in the car, just cranked up. Old guy in his car would have cranked up. My neighbors thought I was nuts. And it was, I mean, what an experience. And that record, man, that record was moving. I mean, what a moving, powerful record. I even like Tattoo. And I don't care what any of you say.
I love that song too. I love every song on that record. Maybe not Bullethead. I don't really like Bullethead.
Love Bullethead. Chinatown, you got to be kidding me.
I love Chinatown. I just don't like Bullethead. But I didn't like Bullethead. I didn't like Bullethead when I heard it the first time in '76. I didn't like it then, or '77, I think it was.
Man, She's the Woman. Who knew that like a little simple A minor vamp could sound so cool? You know, just awesome.
So hey, Pork Chop SRV. Good to see you. He likes Tattoo too.
Look, man, who among us didn't sit down as soon as we saw that video, because it did precede the record, right? I mean, we're learning that solo. It was killer.
You got to hear Pete Caruch play the solo to that song. And he plays his band plays She's the Woman. If you close your eyes, it sounds like Van Halen. It's amazing.
He's a good player.
Pete's another one with an insane collection, insane rig. He's got the whole 9 yards. And not just Van Halen stuff, too. He's got some sweet Les Pauls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Tattoo is a funny song because it didn't hit my ears in a really good way when I first heard it. But then my son, who was just like 2 at the time, I guess, he loved it. And he was just learning how to talk, and he would say, more tattoo. And then when Tokyo Dome came out, I said, oh, here's them playing it live on stage. He goes, I don't like this tattoo. I like the other tattoo.
That's so funny.
An opinionated Van Halen fan as my son. What would you expect, right?
I'm not an opinionated Van Halen fan. Yeah,
comes by it naturally. That's for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
Josh wanted to clarify. He meant the black stuff on the body of the 5150. Was there like some liquid?
There was on the
Frankie
Frankie
at one time, or
There's a cigarette burn on the 5150.
I have. This is the 5150 guitar, and the only black stuff on this guitar is the black stripes.
okay.
That's it. There was a black
on the
piece of
Frankie
tape
there.
right here. There was a black piece of tape right here, right in front of the jack to let him know where to plug his guitar in. But that came off in like '88.
Okay.
Did have some cigarette burns on it, though.
I'm sorry.
Some cigarette burns, at least in the neck, and I know that there was one on the body, but I don't know if they were black. They were more brown.
There's a cigarette burn right here.
Only Eddie would think to put a piece of tape where the jack was. I mean,
I know.
many times we like this?
It's like
Right?
so simple, but so smart at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Normal people
why-
just struggle with it.
Why guess where that jack is? Look at the tape and plug right in.
Right?
Yeah, but we all look like idiots because we're holding it and then we lift it up. How many years did we do that?
Oh, I know. Yeah. Plug in the same guitar every night and you still can't find. Yeah.
We're lifting it up, y'all.
Yep. I agree.
So Josh Evans, if you're talking about the Frankenstein, there is Black Schmutz right up here on the top bout.
Yeah.
Now, in 1980 or so, he had black electrical tape. This tape,
Which never
running
ages
around
well.
the whole thing to hold the guitar strap on the guitar. And when that came off, whatever residue,
There you go.
of that tape was left, that's what's on that guitar right there.
Wait, there's no longer one of those eye hooks in there. The tape held the strap.
Back then in 1980, there were no eye hooks on. What he did was he took a jack similar to this, like a Les Paul jack, and screwed it up here with the strap just in there. Like he put the strap there, put the jack plate on, and screwed it on there, and then taped it up so that it wouldn't come out.
Jeez.
The man was hard on straps.
Yeah.
He was fearless, and I think that's something that a lot of people overlook when they talk about his influence and his ingenuity. He would saw parts of guitars off. I remember reading once that he had a Telecaster he couldn't keep in tune, so he actually screwed it to two stools in the studio, so that it wouldn't move.
It was like a monsoon, and he couldn't keep the guitar in tune.
Yeah.
Crazy Cook 678 wants to know how many red stars are on the 5150 guitar. There are two. There's one up on the headstock and one right in here.
Mm-hmm.
That was Pete Dorn. One of his stories that he gave us for Dirty Movies was sawing off the horn of the guitar so Eddie can get all the way up there.
Oh, well, yeah, on a junior, Les Paul Jr. What a shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
I'm just convinced that it was a paintbrush for him. It was a tool. You know, it was an extension for creativity. I'm just not convinced that he had the same type of relationship with his instrument that I have with mine. I have a different type, obviously. But
go ahead, Ty. Finish. I'm sorry.
But I just have a different type of, and look, I'm pretty hard on him. I'm pretty rough with him. I don't baby him for sure, but I also, he took that to a whole different level. You know, it was this has got to help me talk, right?
Exactly. In fact,
he said it perfectly when he said two things. He couldn't find a guitar that could do what he wanted it to do, and he could not afford really good guitars. So he had to build what he wanted. It was necessity meets ingenuity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're right, Ty. He doesn't have the same relationship with his guitars that we do. And in fact, Wolfgang alludes to it, or he addresses it really in one of the recent interviews where he talks about they took the Frankenstein, the actual one, out of a safe, and he holds it for a minute and he threw it on the couch. You know, he never treated it with kid gloves, never treated any of his guitars with kid gloves, from what I know.
They're just guitars.
Yeah.
To him, they're not. It's not a multi-million-dollar guitar to him. It's just what he put on. It's what he used. It's his guitar.
Yep.
Imagine how he was with sex.
I can't imagine that.
That's not good enough.
Got Jay Hannon in the house. Good to see Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Here.
So before I go through another story, we only have a few minutes. Does anyone else have any Van Halen stories they want to share?
I'll never forget the first time I was in an arena and I heard that guitar live. I'll never forget it.
I can imagine just goosebumps on that one.
I'll never forget it.
Sure.
And I remember after a
I'd
long,
have the goosebumps the moment you hear, where they would say Eddie could have his hand over the strings, muted, and just raising the volume so you just hear the line noise coming through the PA. You're like, oh, it's live! That's all it would take for me. Line noise, 60 cycle hum. That's it. Eddie's 60 cycle hum.
I have a slightly funny one regarding a live show. This was in '98 on the 3 tour. I'm front row center in Madison Square Garden. And I had originally had tickets that were like in the 15th or 20th row, but that wasn't good enough. If I had an opportunity to go front row center, I was taking it. So I gave my tickets to a buddy of mine. And he said, the way he tells it is a lot funnier than I can, but I'm right there, and I got some great pictures of Eddie. And then at one point, one of the cameras showing all the footage on the big screens above, I saw that I was on it. So not only am I losing my mind right there watching Eddie play, and then I saw that I was on the camera, and it was like even funnier. And my friend said to me, he goes, it was one thing to watch you go nuts, but then when you saw yourself going nuts, it amped up even to a new level. There you go. I'm on bootleg too, as a matter of fact. I have the bootleg of that show on DVD.
That's that's at the Garden.
Yeah, it was at the Garden.
Yeah, cool. I went to those shows. It's awesome.
Yep.
So, 1998 again at Manny's. I'm working. The phone rings and it's for me, and it's Eddie Van Halen, and he's asking for me personally because he remembered me from the year before lending him a guitar. So I get on the phone and my jaw's already dropped because I'm talking to Eddie Van Halen, and he says, "Can you do me a favor?" And I said, "What do you want?" He asked me to bring a 5150 combo over to Howard Stern's building because he wanted to play it and to give it to him. Sure. So I got the okay. I got the okay from the boss. PB was going to send another one to the store. So I hop in a cab with a hand truck and this 130-pound amp, go all the way to Howard Stern. And, back then we had very crude cell phones. If you remember, 1998, very crude cell phones. So my cell phone rings. I'm in front of the Howard Stern building, ready to go in. And on my cell phone is Eddie Van Halen. He had gotten my number from the store. I changed my mind. Can you bring that amp up to the Riga Royale on 54th? My name, I'm under Dean Martin. Bring the amp up to my room. And you can wait and hang out for me and wait. I'll be doing some stuff, but I'll come and say hi. Sure, no problem. I couldn't believe I was going to meet Eddie Van Halen, that when I got to the Riga Royale, I took the amp out of the car and left the hand truck in the taxi, and the taxi went away with the hand truck from the store. So I carried this amp to the front, and Scotty Ross, which was their tour manager at the time, met me at the front, and he says, "Yeah, Ed told me to let you up in his room. I'll bring the amp. I'll have someone bring the amp up. Just you go up to. I'll take you up to the room, and you can sit. There's a couple people up there waiting." So there was a couple of people up there, and we waited maybe 4 hours for Eddie to show up, and it was so surreal, when the doors slammed open to his room. And he came in and he screamed, "Dave!" like this. I almost had a heart attack.
I was like, how did you not go into cardiac arrest?
He came up to me. I stood up and he gave me a kiss on the neck and a big hug. And he said, "Thank you so much. I know it was a pain in the ass, blah, blah, blah. Can you hang out for a while? I got to just deal with these people." He had some New York friends of his there. So yeah, of course, yeah. So I sat in the corner waiting for him. He dealt with his friends. They left, and it was just me and him left in his room. He was like, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" So we talked about guitars. We talked about golf. We talked about everything, and we became friends so fast. You don't believe when something like this happens because it's going so fast and it's so surreal. But then I'm sitting there talking to my hero like he's been my best friend for years and years and years. And we're talking about nothing. And then he says, "So what are you doing the rest of the week? Do you want to hang?" we're going to be here all week, and I need someone to like hang with me and help out if I need something. You know, maybe you can grab stuff from the music store for me if I need it, and just whatever I'm doing, just sit by me, stand by me, whatever. Okay, and I did that. We called my boss. I took my week vacation and hung out with Van Halen, and every time he needed something, I'd go get it. He needed a wah and a delay pedal and a bunch of stuff. And that week they did the autograph signing of Van Halen 3 at the Virgin Megastore. So it's Michael, Alex, Gary, and Eddie. And then standing right next to Eddie on this line of people is this fat bald guy. And Eddie comes to me and said, "Did you get your wah back, man? Because I didn't need it anymore. Did you get it back? I was making sure I wanted you to get it back." I'm like, "Don't worry about me." You know, this was, and I'm remembering all this like it's happening again. And he was just, you know, he was like, "Oh, if you didn't get it back, I'll make sure you get it back. You know, I got to do, you know, you can stay here and hang out with us, but I got to I can't pay attention to you right now. I got to do all this stuff." And I'm like, "I'm just happy to be in the same room with you. And the fact that you even acknowledge me like a friend, forget it. I'll just sit here, shut up." And it was just a great time. I went back to the hotel with him. We went to Scores, me, him, and Stern. We went to Scores one night. Oh my God!
Wasn't it St. Patrick's Day?
I don't remember what day it was. I don't remember. It might have been. So Friday is normally my day off from work. So I'm home. It's 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning. I had 3 guitars that I had left at the hotel for him to autograph for me, because at that point he was allowed to autograph whatever he wanted. And they were PV Wolfgangs anyway, so it didn't matter. So I'm sleeping. Phone rings at the house. My wife, my then wife, answers the phone, and the guy on the phone says, "Hi, is Dave there?" And she's like, "Well, he's sleeping right now. He's been, you know, busy all week. He's finally home. He's sleeping." "Well, could you let him know that Eddie Van Halen is on the phone for him?" And she's like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, this is Eddie Van Halen." Rob, you know, because my buddy Rob at the time would play jokes like that. And she's, you know, she wakes me up. She's like, "I'm sorry, honey, but some asshole says he's Eddie Van Halen on the phone." I'm like, "It is. It probably is." And it was. He was like, "And I got your guitars here. We're leaving today." And they were leaving for Australia. So he's like, what do you want me to do with these guitars? And I said, "Just leave them with the front desk, and I'll pick them up." And that's what happened. And that whole tour, every time they played Manhattan, there were tickets at the front office for me. I had carte blanche that whole year. It was amazing. My time with Eddie Van Halen was probably the best time of my life to this day.
Wow,
it's amazing.
That's cool, Dave.
Hard to top that because you got the downtime. That's the thing, right? It's not a compressed meet and greet. You got 5 minutes, you got 10 minutes, or even an hour. Well, you get that lull. The best part had to be that lull in the conversation, and then he'd just be like, "So what are you up to?" type thing.
And in that time, I got to play that purple Wolfgang that he used on the tour that year, which was probably one of the best, not just Wolfgangs, probably one of the best guitars I've ever played in my life. I got to play Panama with him in the hotel room, so I can actually say, "Yeah, I play with Eddie Van Halen." Mm-hmm. I did so many things with my hero that 1% of the world will never be able to say they did. It's incredible. What an incredible feeling. And that's not where the story is. The next part of the story is in 2008.
Wow.
Another incredible story, which we'll get to another time.
Thanks for sharing that one.
Good story.
I said, like Anthony wanted me to do that on one of the intros, but that's just way too long.
Yeah.
I can't paraphrase it. I can't shorten that. And I did. There's a lot of things that I did not talk about, which a lot of juicy stuff that when I was with him that I cannot talk about. I can't even talk about it.
I was just thinking that as you were saying all, I was like, wait, all he did is talk about like the neck on the guitar in his intro. That was it. And now you get all that.
Well, Dave, record it anyway. Michael edited it down. It'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
Well, I could, on the next one, on the next intro that I do for you guys, maybe I'll talk about the 8 Frankensteins that I sold at Guitar Center, and then Eddie found out about it and gave me tickets to the shows in 2008.
All right.
That's cool.
Bozique, I love it, man. He says,
as a former fan of the local ballet troupe, yes, I'm paraphrasing, I really want to hear that score story.
It'll never come out. I don't tell the intimate stories. I don't do that.
I love it, Bozique.
I didn't know what Scores was, but all I'm thinking is Scores and a rock star.
Scores in Manhattan is the most high-end gentleman's club you can think of.
Okay, so yeah, that's like the Brass Rail in Toronto, similar situation, where a lot of bands that are in town have been known to spend some time in there. But yeah, those stories, those aren't on-air stories, Dave.
So the funniest part of this whole story is that my then wife, she was 25 or 26, I was 28, and she didn't believe for 1 minute that I hung out with Eddie Van Halen that whole week. She just thought I was hanging out with my buddies in Manhattan the whole time. She, no matter what, there was, and I had photos, I had stuff of signed autograph stuff. I had brought these guitars in that I had him sign, and she did not believe one word of it. Not at all.
She didn't know his signature because I saw those guitars. I know it. I remember them. I remember the blue Sharpie. It was in blue ink that he signed them. Yep.
I have it in my phone. I have it here. I have it right here for you guys to look at. I don't own the guitar anymore.
I mean, that's the reason she is the ex-wife, but if you don't believe Eddie Van Halen's signature,
that's absolutely not the reason she's the ex-wife.
Hey, Jeff K. Janice.
Hey, Janice.
Mike Neese
Mike.
is in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Bozique. You just no.
How about
Nice.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks for everything, David.
That sums up right there, isn't it?
I miss that guy.
Never got to meet the guy, but I like to say, Dave, like you watch an interview with Eddie, it almost feels like you're in the room. He was so, as much as he would keep some things close to the chest, he was very generous in his answers, and watching interviews with Eddie is just, go down that rabbit hole every few months on YouTube, right? Just searching out Eddie interviews, because it's just, you can hear the passion, He's just a gear nerd like all of us, and that's, he wasn't afraid, like say, tinker with guitars and, this, that, and that, which I love. Thomas, thank you very much.
Thomas, thank you so much. He says, great story, great show. Hang on, let me tag this.
Thank you, Thomas. Thomas Santiago, thank you so much.
And to rip off another Jersey guy, I'll give you one of these bad boys, like the Tone King, for that.
Very cool.
Originally from Staten Island, but anyways.
Awesome stuff. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything, before we say goodbye, is there anything else you guys want to plug? Do you have anything else you want to say?
Let's give the email address again.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mike, go ahead.
It's remembering EVH submissions @gmail.com.
And if you want to hear the playlist, by all means, please go download the Pandora mobile app. You can access it at pandora.com on your computer. Search up Remembering Edward Van Halen, and you'll find the playlist and all the intros there that we've got so far. It's been a labor of love doing it, and I think we should also special thanks to everybody who participated. Everybody really put their heart and soul into it, so very proud to help bring this out to folks and share it with everybody. So we look forward to more submissions and building on this going forward. Thank you, Mike, for all your hard work, too.
Yeah, thank both of you, because if it wasn't for guys like you, someone else would be doing it. No, I'm just kidding.
But it wouldn't be as good. That's the problem. If somebody else did it, it wouldn't have been as good.
No, you're absolutely right.
And as a fan, I just want to say thanks so much. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to say, is anybody else doing it? None of our competition as far as streaming platforms, nobody's doing this. There's no fan curated playlist where the fan can actually give an intro as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very unique gift that you've given all of us, and the vision. Mike, however that happened, we are grateful that it happened in terms of giving you the big idea. And also understanding how to execute the big idea, right? Sometimes that's even more important than having the idea. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
hats off to both of you, really. And Mike, I know it's your brainchild. Really, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having us, and it's been a pleasure to meet you and the rest of you guys.
Anytime you guys want to come back on, just let us know. We're happy to have you on.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. A lot of fun.
I could talk about Van Halen for hours.
It's
Just hours?
Okay, days, weeks, years, decades, lifetime. Yep.
Well,
Very
Ben, Ty, you guys have any last words tonight?
Great to be with you, Dave. Happy Wednesday. Hope you have a great week. Look forward to next week. We're going to have the amazing Cameron Brown as a guest next week.
Yes.
We're going to talk guitars. We're going to talk guitar playing, and I'm sure that the subject of Sir guitars will
Star
come
guitars
up.
and Friedman amplifiers.
Ooh. We
Yeah,
got
big fan of both of those.
some boutique tone right there. I dig it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
high quality boutique tones.
Yep.
Very.
Ben,
What do I got?
you got any kind things to say?
Kind
Always.
things.
Always.
Richard Kind, Mankind. No, not Wrong Kind. Wrong Kind. Yep, perfect. That's about right for me. I had an awesome time. This was great meeting Anthony and Mike, and of course, hanging with you, Dave, and Ty. Got to hear some great stories tonight. Hopefully, we inspired a few people to check out that playlist and submit your top 5.
Yes.
You can narrow it down to top 5. Good luck. I can do top 5 per album probably. That's the scary part. But I had a great time as always here on Nez Says. If you're new, please subscribe. If you haven't already, please give this stream a thumbs up. That helps us out. If you're watching on replay, comment down below what you thought of the show, maybe what your top 5 are, and definitely submit on email as well. I'm going to do a little shout out this Sunday on my channel. I have good buddy Lawrence Petros of LPD Pedals joining me, and we're going to be talking about his 2021 releases in the boutique pedal world. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
And on behalf of Ben Coombs and Ty Price, I'm David Nesdahl. This is Nez Says. And one last thing, if it wasn't for Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, this channel probably wouldn't be here. Good night, everybody.
Good night.